and welcome to Deals with Heels, where female entrepreneurs thrive. I'm Debra, your host. Welcome to the show. So excited to have today's guest. She and I have been trying to get together for a little while, and we finally made it happen. I'm really excited to have the conversation, talking about core values and authenticity and all of the good stuff. So let's just get in it. Andrea Johnson helps female leaders embrace critical thinking, creativity, and confident leadership by uncovering their core values. By staying true to who they are, her clients become impactful, authentic leaders. Andrea is dedicated to fostering integrity-driven leadership that inspires others and positively influences organizations, communities, and the next generation. She is the host of the podcast, Stand Tall and Own It. Please welcome Andrea to Deals with Heels.
Thank you, Debra. I'm excited to be here. I love the name of your podcast. I think it's so much fun. I love the fact that you're another woman who hit 50 and decided, wait a minute, I have something else to say and I have something more to say. So we got to stick together, sister. Well, let's do this.
We definitely do. We definitely do. And I wish I would have been like, yes, I've got more to say, but boy, the universe just had to screw up my life completely to get me to say it, right? I couldn't make that specific choice on my own. And it's so important that we can own our own voice and feel comfortable making those decisions. I personally was in fight or flight. I was the deer. So I was in functional freeze, and I think I was there for about a decade. I really think I was off and
that's
on.
rough. Yeah.
And I think a lot of women, though, that are around our age are kind of in that same place, right? They know something's not right, but they don't know what it is, and they can't. Like, I couldn't make a decision, and I was really hard on myself because of that.
Oh, yeah. Oh,
You
yeah. I mean,
know?
this is directly to one of my, like you said it, I am dedicated to helping women do critical thinking. And we have been conditioned, Debra, to think that we have to follow all the rules. We've been conditioned to do certain things depending on, and more conditioned in some demographics than others, conditioned in certain ways in, like, I come from Southern evangelical culture. So it's like there's an intense conditioning there that every time I think I've stripped a layer, it's like, oh, there's more.
Right?
And
that is the thing with triggers. I'm like, I have healed so many, and then something will happen, and I'll be like, really? Why? Why is it back? I've already dealt with this once, and it's
well, and the
still.
reality is, it's like you've dealt with the top part, and now it's this part and this part, and to go down another layer, another layer, and another layer. I mean, but the further along we go, the more we give ourselves grace, the more we ask the questions, the more we say, you know what? I do have something to learn here. I'm going to move forward, and I'm going to think differently about that, and I'm going to reject what I've been taught all my life, even if it's, because I don't know about you, but I realized there were things that I thought I had been taught that I think I had somehow just internalized. I don't really know that I can pinpoint who taught it to me, right? It's just part of our culture. And just as an example of that, in the last 2 days, I've gone from, 3 days, I've gone from booking a vacation to feeling like I hadn't earned a vacation and realizing that I had been completely conditioned to earn a vacation by doing a specific amount of work or earning a specific amount of money, right? As a hiring manager, I would tell people when they'd start, you earn 0.33 days of vacation every week. So after this many months, you can start taking a week off. And that just becomes the norm for us. And then I went from kind of dealing with that on Sunday to this morning, realizing, oh my goodness, it's not just that I didn't deserve that or I hadn't earned it. It's that I don't think I deserve it. You think you've dealt with it, and then you realize there's one more thing and one more thing, which is why it's so important to have spaces where we can ask the questions, where we can look for the answers. And sometimes there's shame to deal with, and there's lots of conditioning. I call them my ABCs, my assumptions, beliefs, and conditioning. And they're all intertwined, and they all affect everything. And so that's my commitment to critical thinking and helping women to do that, because we just haven't been taught to do it. Not in our educational system, not in our society. I'm a Gen Xer. I'm an old Gen Xer.
Me too. Me too.
I'm 1966, so I'm right at the top. So I know what it's like to move from a completely analog life to a completely digital life, and to think that I'm going into a career or motherhood or something in this traditional way because that's how my parents were and that's how they raised me. And nothing about my life has really been that traditional. I mean, I look at it, I'm like, none of that worked. Right.
No,
So what do I do with that? Which is, how we landed here.
it definitely is. And your journey has been so amazing. And you do teach people about core values. And it's such a big deal. And I'm a marketing person. So you hear a lot about core values with branding. But I think for businesses, it becomes kind of trite, right? Everybody picks the honesty and the integrity and the loyalty, and then they assign colors. And your brand is so much more than what it looks like visually,
Mm-hmm.
right? And how it digging in and finding those true, authentic core values are so important to identify not just who you are as your personal brand or your business brand, but how you live your life, how you
Mm-hmm.
make choices in your life, and understanding that this is what I set even a boundary. I set a boundary. This is part of who I am. I've accepted it about myself. I know it's part of who I am, and I've accepted
And it's
it.
good.
Right. And it's good. And so I definitely want to dig into how that works when you help
Yeah.
someone figure that out, and finding those true ones and not being afraid of what you might find in there, because we're conditioned, like you said, to think that women who put themselves first and are independent, there's something wrong with us.
Oh, we're selfish
We're so
or
selfish.
yeah. And like I said, from the Southern evangelical culture, I'm sinful.
Yeah.
There's something wrong with me. And
You
so
just
that
need to, you'd be so much prettier if you'd just smile.
oh, I got that you're so pretty. You just need to lose some weight. And I didn't realize I had like I don't know, maybe as we age and we get more serious, we develop that. I use the acronym, the RBF, in a text
Mm-hmm.
string. My sister sent me something because she had a little basal cell removed, and she said her doctor was putting it in a smile line. And I said, "Oh, is this like the fixing of the RBF?" And can I say that on the show? I mean, I don't know
Yes,
what it's like,
yes.
resting bitch face. I mean, it's just like, um, from my culture, it's like, you don't say that kind of thing. But she thought that was hysterical. I didn't realize she'd included my 80-year-old dad in the text string. I just wasn't paying attention. And she knew exactly what it was. And he's like, Andrea, what is RBF? I'm like, oh, I am so not even remotely responding to that. But, we don't realize how serious we get. And we don't realize how we're conditioned to look a certain way in order to be considered pretty,
Mm-hmm.
acceptable, all of that. You're right. It's like you'd be so pretty if you just smile. And it's like, oh, you have
Or
such
if
a pretty smile. And it's like, thank you. I'm a pretty person. I have amazing attributes. And we used to think, as teenagers, it was like, he thinks I have a good personality.
that means I'm
That means
ugly.
I'm ugly. And now
That,
it's like when people say you are a light in a room or you have such an amazing personality. I get cold chills even saying that out loud, that people
yes.
would say that about me. And so it's just like this idea of growing into and understanding who we were created, no matter what you believe about how we were created or why. It's still we have in us all these beautiful things that we have to offer to the world. And if we don't tap into that, everybody's missing out. So that's just kind of my soapbox speech a little bit there about core values. But I started looking at them back because I don't know about you, but I started personal growth back when I was like 25. And I wish I had stuck with it and really done a good job with it,
Right.
but I didn't.
I thought about it back then, but I didn't
I
necessarily step
fits
into
and
it as
starts and
yes.
part of that is because I do have a history of bulimia and depression. And so I went through some therapy, which that's automatically personal growth. And so
Mm-hmm.
you learn a lot about yourself. But I used Franklin planner systems
Oh,
and
the
the
Franklin.
Franklin. And right after Covey bought Franklin out, the next planner we got, I think it's his 7 Habits book, but at the end of the book, it had an exercise helping you figure out what he called your governing values. On video, if you're not watching on video, you can see I still have my Franklin planner sheet of my governing values, and you can see that it's shiny because it is laminated with packing tape. Gen X can make anything
We
laminated.
definitely can.
So that was the beginning for me of looking at what my values were and starting to look at what's important to me. And the very top one was freedom. Now, on this list, I have 9 of them, and it included things like self control and honesty and family, friendships, beauty, nature. But when I hit 50, I mean, my 50th year was big. My mother had been fighting breast cancer for a long time. She went into hospice. I turned 50 in August. She went into hospice in September. And we lost her in February. And
Wow.
my son was 8 years old. We'd adopted him when I was 42. And because that was a whole other story, but
Mhm.
it was a big year. And we live in Charlottesville, Virginia, and 2017 is the year she died. And 2017 was a big year in Charlottesville, Virginia. If you don't know what I'm talking about, go look for Unite the Right. But the young woman that was killed the second day of that process, just her mother just lives right up the road. And
Wow.
so my husband is a local pastor, and we were changed fundamentally in that moment. And that set me on a new path. And by the time I was 54, I had already been licensed as a coach and a speaker and a trainer through Maxwell, and started, as I was learning to be a coach, I started looking at what my core values were, because the guy that did the training was neurolinguistic programming trained. And so it was very much looking inside. And I pulled this sheet of paper out, and I started saying, well, what are my real core values? Because these things are not necessarily things that are inside me. These are things
Right.
on outside of me. And that started me on the process. When you start a business, if you have a marketing or advertising firm, it's much easier to say, this is what I do. But as a coach, as a speaker, a trainer, I mean, I now call myself an advocate or an advisor and an educator, because I think that's just an even better description.
I like that too, that
Yeah.
advisor and educator and consultant. I do
Yeah.
sales coaching,
Yeah.
sales and mindset coaching together. And so I like coach, I think kind of because I was an athlete, but I think a lot of people run out and get a little coaching certificate and become a
Yeah.
life coach, and they don't
Yeah.
necessarily have all of the life experiences and all of the things. And I think it does some detriment to that
Yeah.
word.
Yeah. And so people don't understand it. And
Mhm.
depending on your community, like I'm in Charlottesville, which is made up of the University of Virginia and surrounding counties.
Right.
And so it's a very highly academic area. And so, coaching, life coaching, it's not really, people don't really know
Mm.
what that means. We've got a big biotech group here. So I'm learning how to describe myself, but part of that is because, like you said early on, I'm starting to accept who I am, and who I am is made up of my core values. And so as I started digging deep, I realized that as I would work with my clients and start saying, hey, this really helped me, I thought I had done the work. Of course, you think you've done the work, right?
Right.
The more I did that, the more I realized, oh, this is even bigger. This is even deeper. And when I was working in the university system, which that's why we came to this area, I'm very big on root cause analysis of
Mhm.
things, trying to figure out if I want to work on a process or a project, I need to know why, and I need to know where it's coming from. Don't just fix the symptom. Like, I mean, I was in medical research for 23 years. So when you're in medical research, a true diagnosis finds the true origin of
Cause.
whatever is going
Right.
on. And 12 of those years was in cancer research. And, you could have cancer show up in one part of your body, but the reality is it's from some other source.
Mhm.
Mindset kind of fueled this piece for me. And the more I started looking, I realized core values and I define them in a very specific way, because values are just thrown out there a lot. We have business values, we have things that we value, we have processes that we value, we have principles we live by. But our core values, Deborah, are those things that are our absolute non negotiables,
Mhm.
that when they are dishonored, ruins our day, kills relationships, throws us into our bodies into complete nervous, like it triggers our nervous system and it dysregulates us. I couldn't remember the word. But when they're honored, it creates deeper relationships. It gives us clarity. It creates confidence that you can't find anywhere else. And so looking at that, I'm like, well, then how do I define that? How do I help people figure out what those things are? So that's the work that I do. And then we take those and we say, all right, so you're in this organization. So for me, my core values are freedom of thought or surprise or critical thinking, belonging, and authenticity. And for the longest time, I thought community was a core value because I felt like I never really fit in. I'm a little bit of a black sheep. It's just everything is.
I
And
am
then I went
too.
through deconstruction, which then throws you completely out of that. So all of those things. But then I realized that creating community just It's just putting people together. It's not what's the point of the community. And I have a coach friend that I do walk and talk with, and she said, "It sounds like you're looking for some belonging." And we weren't working on my core values, but that was just like ding. And so now I realize, oh, it's much more, it's belonging, which is
Right.
why I value family, right? Why I value peace and tranquility is because I belong, and I'm learning that belonging is belonging to me,
Mm-hmm.
belonging in my relationship with God, and it's nice that it's played out in my family,
Right.
but it's not, it hasn't have to be that way.
Right. I know a lot of people that have a community and that have a family and they don't feel like they belong there. They don't feel like they're honored there. I love that word so much more
Yeah.
than community. I think it
Yeah.
really describes how you want to feel.
Yes. Yes.
This is my boundaries. These are my boundaries for how I want to feel when I'm in my day and when I'm communicating and interacting with people and the world.
Yeah, absolutely.
A big one for me. Mine are very similar to yours. I'm not surprised. I'm 60 and an older Gen X too. And I think that makes us independent anyway to a
Mhm.
certain extent. And so I love that independence. I spent so much time people pleasing,
Yeah.
like 50 years
Yeah.
doing that. I think you forget what your core values are. As women and moms, we take care of everybody else and our
Yes.
core values. I tell people this too. Your sole purpose isn't to take care of somebody else.
Mhm.
It's not to be a mom. It's not to be a good wife. That's not what your soul's purpose is. That's not why you're here. And hopefully you can figure that out before all of those things are gone, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Your core values are there. If you lost every single thing you had,
Mhm.
all your possessions, all of your relationships, your core values are still the same. They're
Mhm.
still there. And that is why people, everybody wants to deal with honest people until you get
Yeah.
somebody that
Those are
talks.
ethics.
Right.
Right?
That's
I mean,
different.
it's like, and I'm in the process working with a different university writing some leadership curriculum, and which is another reason why I like to call myself an educator. But the modules that we're walking through, the first one was core values, and then the second one was ethics. And it's like, how do you map your core values onto different ethical standards, and then be able to say, okay, these are the ethics by which I live, and these are not words that we use in our society on a regular basis,
No.
especially as business owners. And these are classic kind of how we live questions and answers. But, people don't know how to actually take the mirror and turn it inside. And when I do workshops, one of the first things I say is, why don't we do this work? I say, tell me why. Somebody raise your hand and tell me why. And invariably, one person will say, because we're afraid. And you pointed that out already. We're
Hmm.
afraid to look inside. We're taught that what's in there is probably not good. We're taught just in our society, um, and I was kind of raised in a community where he says, don't follow your heart. It will only lead you to hell.
Right. You
Wait,
can't,
what? And it just, that those kinds of things, I know they mean well, but the problem is we internalize that stuff and we take it and we don't know what to do with it because we're not taught to think about what it means.
we don't teach critical thought in our education
We
system. That
don't.
goes all the way back to Rockefeller. We
Yep.
want workers, not
Yep.
thinkers. And that's
Yeah.
what we have.
Thank you, Industrial Revolution.
Exactly,
You know?
thanks. Henry Ford and his 40-hour work week can bite me.
Right?
That saddled us under the guise of us not having to work too many hours, and now that all got set and we all it's really hard conditioning to get rid of that. I don't have to be at the desk by 8 a.m., and I don't work in corporate America anymore,
I
but
know.
I still have that engaged in there.
Mhm.
You said something, and I made a note of it that I wanted to talk about it, and that is deconstruction. And I want you to explain what that is from the perspective of you kind of a process you go through, right?
Sure.
To find your real core values and who you are. And
Yeah.
it'd be great to be able to guide that process and not just have the universe deconstruct my life and force me to make a decision.
Yeah, and I'm starting to use deconstruction and deconditioning almost interchangeably, but there's
Mhm.
differences.
Mhm.
We most often hear deconstruction in terms of religion or politics or those kinds of things or social structures. But my general understanding of it is taking all of the external pieces off. Like I had one person described it really well. There's this beautiful piece of art And we can't all get in there and see it. And we all have a different angle looking at it. Like let's just say we put Michelangelo's David in the room, right? And so we're all trying to get a good look at it. So people start building scaffolding, up to just kind of to look down on it and to be able to see it. But then we're still seeing it from different angles. And so everybody describes it a little differently. But as you climb up other people's scaffolding to see better, to build your own, what we end up with is this 2000, talking in religion, right? Like Christianity, 2000 plus years worth of scaffolding that's been built around this beautiful piece, this pearl of information. And nobody can really get a good look at it because we're all looking at everybody else's scaffolding. And so taking down that scaffolding or, like going down to the bottom and opening a door and walking in the room and saying, what is all that? I mean,
Right.
that helped me visualize it better when I was going through it. I'm not going to lie to you. It was a rough process because I was conditioned to think that there was only one way to interpret everything and there was only one way to look at it. Anybody that didn't look at things through my lens was wrong. And that part was hard for me. And I knew that didn't serve me in this world at all. I knew that having a yes or no answer to everything was not helping me. Curiosity would be like number 4 on my core values
Mm-hmm.
list. And I was the kid that always asked why. And before Enron made it popular. So I knew that I needed to do something, but I didn't know what to do with this. If I'm not in the yes camp, then that means I'm in the no camp. And how does that work? And
Right.
being able to like remove all of that out and it's still going on.
Mm-hmm.
Like I said,
Right.
I still like this morning, I'm like, why do I think that mercy and grace doesn't extend to my finances? Why do I think, it's like, how does that work?
Mm-hmm.
And so in general, deconstruction is taking away the pieces of something that you don't need. I watch Top Chef and I love it when they do like a deconstructed meal. Like this is a deconstructed pizza and you have like the pepperoni and crackers and cheese and a dipping sauce. And, it's like,
Right.
because it's taking apart the the main thing into its integral parts and saying, what do they mean? And so for deconstruction of anything, and here's what I will say to everybody listening, if you start the process, you just need to understand it will happen for the rest of your life because you will find that you have everything to deconstruct because it's really just curiosity. It's really, and bravery and being willing to say, I have the courage to question this and look for the answers and not automatically assume the answers are going to be a certain thing. Because when I felt like I had gotten through my deconstruction in religion, because I'm one of those people that quote unquote deconstructed without completely losing my faith. I feel like I deconstructed a lot of external things outside of
Mm-hmm.
that. But when I did that, I realized, oh, now I have economics to deconstruct. Now I have demographics to deconstruct. Now, and the other thing that I did that along with that was systemic racism and trying to figure out what that means as a white woman. And
Mm-hmm.
I spent days on the floor crying because I just didn't know how to be something other than I was without feeling this immense guilt and shame. And then there are times it's like freedom, because I would look at people who had gone through the process and think, and from my perspective, looking at people in the LGBTQ community who had come out of the church thinking, I wish I was as free as them. Right. So if you find yourself thinking that about anybody, you have some things to deconstruct, I would say. Right.
I think that we all do, right? For
Yeah.
me, deconstructing all of the extraneous opinions that other people
Yes.
have placed upon me. And I can be pretty intense sometimes. I'm a Scorpio and I'm honest and I will just say it. And people but I'm normally like this, but I can be very direct.
Mm.
And people think that that's anger, for
Mm.
example. And it's
Mm-hmm.
not. I honestly don't feel one way or the other about it. I was just being direct and being able to accept that that's a part of me. It's a
Mm-hmm.
very useful part of me that I
Sure.
used to feel bad about if somebody took it the wrong way. Like, you must be having a bad day. Oh, no, I'm having a great day. But it would affect me. And I would think there's something about me that people don't like. And it took me a while to realize there's something about everyone that's not as likable as the other parts are. And likely the likable parts are the parts we need to change because they're the
Right.
ones that we got shoved into this box so that people would like us as little girls and as women. and get along. Don't rock the boat. Don't
Mhm.
say your piece. Don't try to stand out. Don't write all of the things. Be
Mhm.
quiet, look pretty, don't have an opinion, and get all of that, all of the opinions off, right?
Mhm.
Because when I think the most about it, when I think about people reacting to that part of me.
Yeah.
And Christina, my former co-host, was one of the few people who didn't know me very well and took that part of me and was able to love it and
Oh, that's
understand
wonderful.
it,
Yeah.
right? And having a
Yeah.
friend that I know that, like, especially if I'm deep into something analytical, then because I'm normally a creative person and I'm deep into something analytical and they catch me off guard. And so they get that
Mm.
nerd reaction. She's like, "You're like Sheldon when he says something and he just blurts it out and it's honest and true, but everybody's
Mhm.
like, 'What a jerk.'"
Mhm.
It's kind of because I'm super nerdy, I just hide it really well. And so she would describe it as that, and we started calling that part of me the marketing director, Deborah, corporate marketing Deborah, right? And she serves a very important purpose. That bitch can't be in charge. That's what I'm going to tell you. That she is not in charge anymore. She had to be in charge in corporate America because I had to fend for myself all the time, which was not a great place for me. But it's also, she'll call me and she'll say, "What are you doing?" I'll say, "I'm working." "Are you doing something creative?" "Well,
Mm.
no. Why? What's going on?" "I was wondering if I could talk to marketing director Deborah. Can we bring her out? Is she going to ruin your day if you bring her out right now?"
Oh, that's
So
funny.
being able, it really helped
Yeah.
me see that as not something I had to hide or be ashamed of or feel guilty because I was really blunt and honest. And I, I'm not perfect. I'm not able to always curb what I say under to make it feel good for everyone else. And frankly, I'm done watering myself down to make someone else feel comfortable. I'm I'm just I'm done
We're
doing
here.
that. If what I say or do makes you uncomfortable, makes you have any kind of an emotional reaction that's negative, then you should work on that.
Yeah. That's what my sister says. That's a you problem.
Because I promise I haven't given it a second thought. I don't know you're upset. I didn't intentionally try to make you upset. You're upset all on your own. I haven't even thought about it since then. And it's taken a lot of work and I'm definitely not perfect at it, but I try hard. I still feel like, oh, that sounded really abrupt or curt. And I was like, well, hopefully they will grant me grace because they caught me at a time when that's what I was doing. And I answered the question, but it's hard. It's a really hard thing to accept a part of yourself it's an important part of me. It's the
Yeah.
really smart part of me. It's
Yeah.
essential to who I am, but I don't want to live there permanently,
Yeah.
right?
Oh, yeah. I feel you. I'm a Virgo, so I don't have that problem.
I have a Virgo stellium and that Virgo part, that's why I'm so hard on myself.
Well, but the Virgo part usually comes out in church settings where it's inappropriate, you know,
Okay. Mhm. Mhm.
like tossing tables or literally slamming my hands down on tables with old men. And that's not helpful. Or just looking at someone who's being combative and over something that is absolutely has nothing to do with what we're discussing in a Bible study. It's a cultural issue. And two different times, like, I just don't believe that.
Right?
And I just like, yeah, I don't, and when I get that way though, it's not super direct. It's just super matter of fact. Yeah, I don't believe that.
I love that. And I'm
It
mostly
doesn't make them not leave the church, but still.
I've got a lot of water signs in my
Uh-huh.
astrological chart, but I have a Virgo stellium. So 3 planets were in Virgo when I was born. And so that Virgo part of me that no one can see, right? That's part of that marketing director,
Yeah.
Deborah. That Virgo is in there and it's essential. It's essential part of who I am. My work ethic is in there.
Hmm.
All of those things are part of that. And so it's so important.
Well, and I think that bringing it back to core values, all of those things play a part to help you understand your core values, right? So I'm also a DISC consultant. And so I help people even looking at their DISC report. Like if you're and you sound like a D if that's your directness. But if you are a D where you have a lot of matter of fact directness, then you're probably very task oriented, and it is helpful to kind of narrow down looking at things in that style. But if you're more of a relational person, then your core values are probably going to be more relational oriented. There's nothing wrong with that. It's just that you've been this way since you were born, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
And it was kind of conditioned out of you for a while. And now you're just rediscovering it. So I like to help people look at all these things we already know about ourselves and say,
Mm-hmm.
oh, that's a hint for me to see what is beneath all of this, because it's there, right?
Mm-hmm. It is. Well, like all great conversations, we're running out of time.
No.
I know, right? Why don't we end with you? Can you give us, say, 3 tips to if somebody wants to start that journey in discovering their core values, what are like the some top tips that you would say are a good place to start?
Well, I do have a free resource called the Core Values Blueprint. So that's a simple place. It's on my website. I'm sure you'll link to some things.
Yep.
And it is a free resource and it is a simple way to do it. Then another thing that you can do is just start asking yourself, what brings me the greatest joy and makes me the most angry? And those kind of things, the answers to those questions will point you in the direction of the things that are your non-negotiables. And most of us, I think, live by at least one and honor at least one of our core values, but very few of us honor all of our core values all the time. Most people say, I was the greatest perpetrator of dishonoring my core values. I had no idea. I thought it was my husband or my boss, but no, it was me.
Right. They learned it from you. You're the one who set
Exactly.
those
I
examples and
trained
didn't
them,
hold
So,
that boundary. You let it go.
yes,
So how important could it be if you can't
yes,
honor it yourself?
right.
That
So
for
look at the
me was the hard.
things. Yeah. So if you look back over the last 2 weeks and say, did anything perpetually anger me? Or did anything perpetually like make me excited? Most of us, the anger part is really easy to find. And then look at the opposite of that, right?
Mhm.
So if being disrespected or something like that, or somebody telling you how to think, for me, it's like, I just look at the opposite of that. So that's a good
Right.
place to start.
I don't like
Another,
people telling me what to do.
yeah, yeah, right. So the independence, see, it's like that makes it. Here's the thing. They're not a mystery. They're in there. You could even ask, like, this is part of the exercise, but you can ask the people who are closest to you, what do you think my non negotiables are? Don't call them core values. Ask them for your non negotiables, because they're going to give you action words or
Mhm.
theory words. They're not going to give you like your family or faith or your country or whatever people say.
Right.
So I think,
Honesty, integrity, and
yes,
all of the
respect and
main yes,
yeah,
all of those, but where do those come from? Have those deep conversations with yourself
yes,
that you don't want to have, and I often tell people, and this is what I did to heal a lot of my triggers. When I felt triggered and emotional, I dig in. Well,
mhm,
obviously, if whatever that is making me feel this way, there's something there that I need to heal and think about and
yeah,
try to work through. So if something's making you feel uncomfortable, guys,
there's a reason.
there's a reason it is.
And I talk about too, but I talk about green flags, right? I say, those are your
Mhm.
green flags, right? These are the things that are like sticking their hand up saying, hey, I'm important. Right. And
Yes,
so
exactly.
that's part of honoring our core values, is being able to say, oh, wait a minute, this is important to me. Because when you talk about boundaries, when you understand your core values, then your boundaries are set on the inside and you don't have to have people talk to the hand, right? You
Right.
don't have to set them out there. People walk through my yard because we live on a busy street, and they don't come up to my door and walk in. They know that this is a house. They know that there's a door there for a reason, and they knock on it or ring the doorbell. And I let those people in, right? And
And
that's kind of how I see my core values. That sets my boundaries of I let people inside those boundaries, right? So if they're being dishonored, it's if somebody's come in my house with dirty shoes, it's because I let them, right?
100%. I love that. That's
So
fantastic.
I think that's some good tips to get you started.
Perfect. I will link to your free guide to find your core values in the show notes. Everybody, please check it out. And how else? What's the best way for the audience to contact you?
I am extremely accessible on LinkedIn or Instagram. You can DM me, tell me that you heard me here on Deals with Heels, and I will know that you're not a spammer. But connect with me for sure on either of those platforms. But you can also just email me, Andrea at The Intentional Optimist, or go to my website, The Intentional Optimist. That's a whole other thing we haven't talked about. That's my
I know.
proprietary, those are my principles, my ethics of how I live, right? So it's like I started on
Hmm.
the outside and worked in. So you can find me at theintentionaloptimist.com. That's the best way.
I love it. And your podcast is available on all platforms.
You bet.
Fantastic. Well, it has been such a pleasure having you on the show. I'm so grateful you could come on and be a guest and share
Yeah.
all of your infinite wisdom.
I'm glad we were able to make it work finally. Yay.
Oh, me too. Me too. So, everyone, you can find all of her stuff in show notes, and you can find my stuff in show notes as well. You can link to my free ebook, 5 Steps to Having a Mindset for Success, and all of the other good things. Please like, share, subscribe, and tell your friends, and leave us a review. Until next week, everyone, we're out. Thanks, Andrea.
Bye bye.